Mia, a 26-year-old woman with chestnut hair that cascaded in soft waves down her back, stood quietly in the kitchen, stirring a cup of tea. Her slender frame moved with a natural grace, though her mind was anything but calm. Lately, her emotions had been tied up in knots, especially when it came to Alex, her stepfather. Mia had always respected him, trusted him, but recently, their relationship had taken on a different texture. It wasn't just familial anymore. The way his deep blue eyes lingered on her, the warmth in his voice, everything seemed to have changed. Alex, a man in his early 40s, was tall with a strong, athletic build. His salt and pepper hair added to his rugged charm, but it was the way he carried himself, confident, calm, protective, that had always drawn Mia to him. For years, he had been her steadying force, the one she could count on since marrying her mother when Mia was younger. Yet lately, whenever he looked at her, his gaze seemed to hold something more, something unspoken, as if he, too, was navigating this new tension between them. As the soft patter of rain tapped against the windows, the house was quiet, save for the gentle sound of Mia's spoon stirring her tea. She was lost in thought when Alex entered the kitchen. His presence, as always, filled the room effortlessly. "Still up?" Alex asked, his voice low, comforting, as he stepped closer to her. Mia's heart skipped a beat. She glanced up, her brown eyes meeting his blue ones. "Yeah, couldn't sleep," she admitted softly, her fingers tightening around the mug. "Just thinking." Alex moved to the counter beside her, leaning casually, though his eyes never left her. "Anything on your mind you want to talk about?" His tone was gentle, but there was an undertone of curiosity. Mia hesitated, biting her lower lip. Could she really say it? Could she admit what had been swirling in her mind for weeks? She glanced down at her tea, her heart racing. "I don't know if I can." He reached out, placing a warm hand on her shoulder. "Mia, you know you can tell me anything," he said softly. "I'm here for you. Always." She looked up at him again, feeling the heat rising in her chest. He had always been the one she turned to for comfort, for advice, and for support. But now, her feelings were different. There was a tension between them that neither had acknowledged, until now. "I've just been thinking a lot lately, about us," Mia finally whispered, her voice trembling slightly. The words hung in the air, and Alex's expression shifted ever so subtly. "Us?" Alex repeated, his brows furrowing as he studied her. He had noticed the change between them too, the moments of silence that spoke volumes, the lingering touches. But he had always pushed it aside, knowing their relationship was bound by family. "Dad," Mia started, her voice softer, filled with uncertainty. "I don't know how to explain it, but something feels different." Alex's hand slid from her shoulder down to her arm, his touch lingering longer than it normally would. His heart raced as well, realizing they were on the edge of something neither could take back. "Mia." "I've felt it too," he admitted, his voice low, filled with both concern and longing. He gently tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear, the simple gesture sending a shiver down her spine. Her pulse quickened at his words. "What does it mean? What are we supposed to do?" she asked, her breath catching as she looked into his eyes. For a moment, Alex said nothing. Instead, he moved even closer, his hand brushing against her cheek. The soft, tender touch was both comforting and electrifying. "I don't know," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "But I can't pretend anymore." Mia's heart pounded in her chest as she leaned into his touch. There had been so many moments where they almost crossed this line, where their bond felt like something more. And now, standing here together, it was undeniable. "I don't want to pretend either," Mia whispered back, her voice trembling with both fear and desire. Alex's thumb traced the edge of her jawline before resting on her chin, gently tilting her face up toward his. "Are you sure?" he asked, his breath warm against her skin. Mia nodded, her voice barely audible. "Yes." With that, Alex leaned in, his lips brushing against hers in the softest, most tentative kiss. It was slow, as if they were both afraid of what it would mean, but the moment their lips touched, everything else fell away. The kiss deepened, a surge of emotion flooding through them both as years of tension melted into a single moment of connection. Mia's hands found their way to his chest, feeling the steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath her fingers. She could sense the restraint in him, the way he held back, but she didn't want him to. Not anymore. Her lips parted slightly, inviting him in, and Alex responded, his kiss becoming more intense, more urgent. His hands slid down her sides, pulling her closer until there was no space left between them. It felt right, as if this was what they had both been waiting for all along. The soft rain continued to fall outside, but inside, the world seemed to have stopped. There was only them, Mia and Alex, finally allowing themselves to feel what had been building between them for so long. The kiss between Mia and Alex lingered, filled with a quiet passion that neither of them had expected. The tension that had been simmering between them for weeks was now breaking free, yet still restrained, as if both were afraid to let go completely. Mia's fingers lightly grazed Alex's chest, feeling the warmth of his body beneath her touch, while his hand rested on her waist, holding her close but not too tightly. They broke the kiss slowly, their lips hovering inches apart, both of them breathing heavily, trying to process the emotions swirling inside them. "Mia," Alex whispered, his voice rough with emotion. His forehead gently rested against hers, their breaths mingling in the small space between them. His fingers brushed softly against her cheek, tracing the curve of her face as if he were memorizing every detail. "I don't want to hurt you." Mia's heart swelled at his words. Despite the desire between them, Alex's protective nature always shone through, and it only made her want him more. She lifted her gaze to meet his, her dark eyes filled with the same yearning he was trying to suppress. "You're not," she whispered back, her voice tender but sure. "I want this. I want you." Her words sent a rush of warmth through him, and he leaned in again, capturing her lips in another kiss, this one deeper, more confident. His hand slid from her waist to the small of her back, pulling her closer as their bodies pressed together. Mia sighed softly against his mouth, her hands running up his chest to his shoulders, feeling the strength beneath his shirt. The world outside seemed to fade away, the soft patter of rain on the windows the only sound besides their quiet breathing. Everything about this moment felt surreal, like a dream they had both been waiting for but never dared to believe could happen. As they kissed, Alex's fingers grazed the bare skin at the base of her spine, just beneath her shirt. The sensation sent shivers up Mia's body, and she instinctively pressed herself closer to him, her body responding to his touch with a hunger she hadn't realized was there. She let her hand slide up to his neck, her fingers threading through his hair as she pulled him closer, deepening the kiss. Alex groaned softly, his grip on her tightening as his self-control began to waver. He had always been the strong one, the protector, but tonight, being this close to Mia, feeling her soft curves against him, was testing his limits. He broke the kiss once more, breathing heavily as he looked into her eyes. "Mia," he whispered again, his voice strained but full of emotion. "We need to be careful." Mia nodded, but the heat in her eyes told him that she wasn't ready to stop. "I know," she replied softly, her voice laced with desire. "But I need this. I need you." Her words cut through him, and Alex couldn't hold back any longer. He kissed her again, more urgently this time, his hands roaming her back, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath his fingers. Mia melted into him, her hands exploring his body as they kissed, her mind lost in the intensity of the moment. The soft light in the room cast shadows around them, making the world feel intimate, cocooned in this shared moment of passion. Alex's hands moved to her hips, lifting her slightly so that she was sitting on the edge of the counter, bringing her closer to him. Mia gasped at the sudden movement but quickly wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him down to kiss her again. Their kisses were slow yet filled with longing, each one leaving them wanting more, but neither willing to rush. Alex's lips moved from her mouth to her jawline, planting soft, lingering kisses along her skin as his hands held her securely against him. Mia's head tilted back, her eyes fluttering shut as she gave in to the warmth of his touch. Her fingers traced the outline of his shoulders, exploring the strong muscles beneath his shirt, while his lips found their way to the sensitive spot on her neck. A soft moan escaped her lips as he kissed her there, the sound sending a shiver down Alex's spine. He had always tried to keep his distance, to remain in control, but being this close to Mia, hearing her soft sighs of pleasure, was undoing him. He pulled back slightly, his breath ragged as he looked at her, her flushed cheeks and parted lips making his heart race. "We shouldn't rush this," he murmured, though even as he said the words, his hand stayed on her waist, unwilling to let go. Mia smiled softly, her fingers gently caressing the back of his neck. "I'm not rushing," she whispered, her voice soft but sure. "I've wanted this for a long time." Alex's eyes searched hers, seeing the truth in her words, and he realized that this wasn't just a moment of passion, they had both been waiting for this. Slowly, he leaned in, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that was both tender and full of the unspoken emotions they had been holding back for so long. As the kiss lingered, Alex pulled Mia even closer, his hands cradling her face as if he were afraid to let go. The warmth radiating between them felt like a shield against the outside world, a cocoon where only they existed. Mia could feel his heartbeat matching her own, a steady rhythm that echoed the unspoken bond they had forged. Slowly, they pulled apart, their foreheads resting against each other, breaths mingling in the soft glow of the kitchen. "Mia," Alex murmured, his voice thick with emotion, "I never want to lose this." The sincerity in his gaze made her heart swell, and she leaned into him, her arms wrapping around his neck. "Neither do I," she whispered back, feeling a rush of warmth that transcended any fear. In that moment, they both knew they had crossed a threshold, stepping into a new world filled with possibilities. Their fingers intertwined as they shared another soft kiss, this one full of promise, hope, and the sweet surrender of all the moments yet to come. As they stood together, wrapped in each other's arms, the rain continued to fall outside, creating a soothing backdrop to their newfound intimacy. In each other, they had found a connection that went beyond the ordinary, a love that was tender, passionate, and undeniably theirs.